Yeah, it was never my strategy when I got into it to be flush on a property or lose a little bit of money on a property. But what I've learned over the years, in one, I always refer to it like you have the one night stands and you have marriages, right? Now, maybe some people don't have one night stands, okay? But when you're younger and you flip and you wholesale or you do whatever, like those are your one night stands that create cash. What you do with that cash is so important.
Yep.
The rentals are the marriage. And I think the real reward in marriage is year after year after year being able to spend with the same person, being able to grow those bonds and enjoy life and vacations. And it's just like your rental properties, right? Like you enjoy more over time,
I love that.
but you do not get rich on the rental doors if you play this game right to create the most cash. So I suggest everybody's like, well, you need to choose a route. You need to be a flipper or a wholesaler, or you have to buy rental properties. You got to do it all, right?
Mhm.
And the reason I think flipping is so important is once you conquer how to flip a property, you conquer how to make money when you need money.
Yep.
Right? Like I have full confidence that I can go out and I can wholesale a property or I can flip a property if I am dire need of cash. It might take me a month or two or whatever, but I know that I can do it successfully if I need to get cash in. And as long as you understand how to do that, then you never have a fear when something crazy happens at a rental property and you're like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
and you've had them. Like I can think back in my head, you've had hot water heaters go out.
I had
Not
4
you,
or
but
5 roofs this past year.
roofs are a big hit. I mean, depending on how big they are, 5 to 20,000,
Yep.
typically. I just had a sewer line collapse on one of my properties that, drilled me 10K. And then the week after that, I had another one of my properties collapse sewer line, 12K. And I think about all the owners that have all those hits that keep going, and you have like a $10,000 hit or a $12,000 hit. That's your cash flow for the whole year. Like you're pretty much done.
Yeah, maybe
Right.
even more.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even longer depending on what property it is. I mean, if you're just a duplex or a single family home, that might be 2 years of your cash flow. But the real wealth, your real like net income that you're coming in, like the generational wealth and your net worth, that comes over time. And that's what the rentals provide, right? Like and what I would suggest for anybody when you're doing it is don't refinance all of your properties, right? If we go back to like the Dave Ramseys of the world and they talk about how much money you should have saved and whatever to feel comfortable, right? Like you need 6 months of expenses and blah, blah, blah. Yes, I have that in my life, but even when I was young and I wasn't stacking the cash, I didn't believe in that. For me, my emergency savings funds were real estate.
Were the properties.
I kept them
They're
free
piggy
and
banks.
clear. I kept them free and clear. That way, if I had to cash out, refinance a property, I knew that I could withstand anything for 30 days
Yep.
to be able to refinance property out. But I'm glad that you said that because you're still flipping too. You're flipping properties along the way. You're refinancing, but you have to have that steady flow of income that comes in. So we've jumped a little bit ahead. We talked about kind of that, but we go back and a new person sitting here thinking, man, I want to jump into real estate or I want to jump into this. I don't know how. How'd you start looking for deals? That's a big question that everybody has.
To the common person, I think they kind of get taken aback when I say this, but I have bought a lot of my deals off of Facebook groups, and basically networking with wholesalers who are posting their deals. And for whatever reason, that is a common medium of exchange. Everyone's got a Facebook, everyone's into these real estate groups, and you then get onto their email and text listservs. And I think it's also understanding that, 1 out of every 2 properties you look at is not going to be a deal. You're looking at 100 properties to find something that really has that margin, isn't terribly risky, that you can make a return on to get that win. So I always recommend people get on those Facebook groups, and you're going to get educated over time, just seeing what people are talking about, whether it's contractors, lenders, insurance, or just real estate opportunities in general. But all of my deals are coming. I think I've bought 1 or 2 deals off of the MLS or Zillow or however you think about it. All of them are happening off market because that's where, I ultimately look at it. I'm buying problems, right? Something is in disrepair. There is a non-paying tenant. Someone needs to move quickly on their home, and I'm there to basically reap that reward, give them the cash they need quickly so that I can go make a return over the long term.
All right, so you bought 100 units now. Do you remember your very first deal?
Absolutely.
What was it?
So it was just to speaking to my background, I had, a good job. I'd saved up money. I'd been investing into the stock market, and I ultimately bought a duplex here in Walnut Hills for $100,000. One side was renting for $450 a month for a 3-bed, 1-bath, and the other side had just been vacant. So it looked to the average person maybe like, wow, this thing is not going to cash flow. But 3 months later, we had that thing renting at 750 or 800 on the one side. We moved their rent up to 600. So I was bringing in 1400, and my payment was $650 on that deal. So, I mean, it cash flowed really well. But what is crazy, after a couple years here, the property has increased in value significantly because we had the COVID run. And it's just, that's my only deal that I have not really refinanced, to your point, right? I did it the traditional way where you save up 25%, you put the down payment down, and then you let it cash flow. But I've quickly realized that in order to scale quickly, I got to be able to pull my money back out and then go recycle it into the next deal. But that was my first one.
And you probably learned early on, I would imagine, that capital runs thin very quickly.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have to find alternative ways to be able to fund deals. And for me, for a long time before I knew about, any type of networking or anything, it was flipping. It was flipping and wholesaling. That was my money. That was my play money that I got to go buy more properties with. But there's lots of other strategies out there. So how have you found ways to fund your deals without using your own money?
Yeah, absolutely. So the majority of my deals now, I am not funding with my own capital. I am providing an investment opportunity to someone who doesn't want to be active in real estate, but maybe likes the opportunity to, be involved or learn. But I'm providing, I basically pay a private money lender 10 to 12% on their money, secured by the real estate itself. So we'll record a private money mortgage and note. So they are basically the bank on that property. And then I will go renovate it, get it rented out with your team, and then go and refinance it, typically in about 4 months. So if I am borrowing $100,000 for a property, a typical deal for me is I buy something for $75,000, put $25K into the rehab, and then it appraises at $150,000. So I am all into this project for 66% of its after repair value. I, in 4 months owe this lender $4,000. And that's just part of my margin, or how I think about the deal, right? I'm more than happy to pay them that 12% interest, which is a good return on your capital, especially in a passive manner. And then I go make that equity on the back end when I go through the refinance process.
Yes, people sitting out there and they're thinking, like, how do I find a private money lender? Like, what are the suggestions on finding private money lenders?
Yeah, part of it is, I think you just have to share your journey and what you're trying to do, which I can understand, for your first deal may be tough, but you can simply just start posting, the deals that you're underwriting and the opportunities that you're seeing when you're going and looking at properties. It doesn't have to be perfect up front, but I have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from social media, which it sounds crazy, but family, friends of friends have reached out and said that they have capital that they're looking to get to work and, understand if that, is a match. So I have just shared my journey, told people what I'm doing, and I have an inspector who inspected my first house. He's lending me money right now. I have some friends that I went to college with. Anyone can be that private money lender, because you never know who has been, slowly stacking cash away over a short period of time or a long period. There's a lot of people who have self-directed IRA accounts, right, where they can choose to where to invest that capital, or they may just, be saving along the way, and they don't like what's happening with the stock market. They're fearful of where it may go, and you can provide a solid return that's backed by a hard asset, which a lot of people like.
Sure. I think what you just said, you have to share your journey.
Yeah.
Right. And it's simple stuff like, hey, if you're interested in knowing how I'm doing it or what we're doing, like, let's have a conversation. I've never been big on raising funds. Like, I've always tried to find a way to do it myself. Just for me, it was a pride thing. For me, it was, I want to have 100% ownership all the time.
Absolutely.
But for flips and things like that, man, I'll take private money all day long.
Yeah.
And we do it. And I think it's really cool when we get to do it with a friend or a family member and they have success and we get to give them a big check at the end and they're like, oh shit, like, and then they start wanting to throw money at you, right? Like, hey, I have people all the time like, hey man, I got like 100 grand, 100 grand.
I got more.
I'm like, I'm cool right now. Like, I don't need your money right now. And like, that's a crazy place to be in when I think about where I started. But at the end of the day, when you get to give a big check and a return and you get to do exactly what you said you would do to somebody, man, it's a super cool feeling. But there's so many people out there in our lives that they don't even know that they have the opportunity to do this, right? Think about somebody who's signed up for a whole life policy through their work many years ago, and they're thinking they're buying life insurance. They don't understand that a whole life policy, not a term life insurance policy, but a whole life policy, they don't understand that that's an investment vehicle that you can borrow money off of it, right?
Yep. And get a higher return somewhere else.
Exactly. Or if you have, if somebody's been investing in, not necessarily 401k, that's a little trickier to do stuff with there to not take tax hits. But if somebody has like a stock portfolio out there that they've been investing in, playing around with, they might not know that, hey, you can lend yourself 65, 70% of that money back. And depending on where the market's at, like right now, it's probably at like 7, 6.5, 7 to loan yourself the money. But then they give you that money and you're borrowing it at 10. Well, that's an additional 3% that they're getting on their money, right? Or additional 4%.
Or not even on their money, right?
Yeah.
It's the bank's money.
Yeah, they're not taking their money out because their capital's continuing to grow.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about talking about it. And a lot of times it's about educating private lenders to understand that they're private lenders. They can be private lenders. That's so important.